Okay, so my name's Alyce Evans, and I'm going to just ask you a few questions about your culture. So first off, what's your name and where are you originally from?
So my name is Young Park. I was born in Seoul, South Korea. It's one of the most dense metropolitan cities. And after finishing elementary school, I moved here, Sparks, Nevada, one of the smallest towns. So it was a big difference, not only because I moved from a different country.
Why did you come to America? In Reno specifically.
For us, it was actually Los Angeles was the main target. But there's a funny thing with Koreans, especially with immigrants. There's a lot of fraud. My father was one of them. He was frauded about $30,000. So he changed the plan right away. And thankful for us, my grandmother actually moved to Reno in the 80s, in the early 80s. She's been here for decades. So we came here. Actually, she was a citizen at that time as well, so she invited us, and it was pretty obvious where we were going to go. But just to let you know that a lot of Koreans will go to Australia and Canada as well.
What was the main focus of why you moved from Korea? And you moved with your family, both your parents?
I came with just my mom because my father has a career there, and he was the main financial source. For us, it was actual immigration. I planned on settling here from the get-go, but I know it's more common for people to just come here for school, and they usually go back, but I'm staying here.
So why did you and your mom come here if your dad was financially?
So it's more like for them, it's looking out for our future. They thought that
There's more opportunity.
Yeah, you're more free from the frame. Like in Korea, we see so many doctors and whatever, professionals so often because they're kind of bred to it. Like we see so many white collar, accountants, business majors, finance guys, because that's their frame. Like if I was in Korea, I'd probably be an accountant like my dad, but I'm a criminal justice major, so. And if I was in Korea, if I was a criminal justice major, I'd be an outcast. I couldn't do anything.
So how old were you when you first came over, and what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you came?
So I came here when I was 12, and there's basic things like norms, mannerisms, values. But those things are things you learn in society anyways, even if I was growing up in Korea or anywhere else. It's something I'm going to have to learn. So that's not really a problem. But the main thing, as cliche as it sounds, is racism. I mean, there's not a situation where people can look past me. Like, they look at me and they already think they know. Like,
About
I'm sure
your culture?
a lot of people think I'm, smart. Or
Study hard.
probably in math.
So the stereotypes?
Yeah, I mean, stereotypes is one thing, but people really rely on it. People really think they
Believe
know.
that.
Yeah, like, it's not just me. It's worse for Hispanics and blacks, Africans.
Was it hard for you to make friends in elementary school when you first came over?
No, but it's funny because I think I made friends because I was an immigrant. Like people were like, "Hey, there's an Asian kid. We haven't really seen those. You should be friends with him." I made friends really fast, and some of them are still friends after 16 years or 13 years.
Are you bilingual?
Yes, I am. I forget a little bit about my old language over time, but after I got out of high school, I go back to Korea every year, so it kind of helps me learn their culture again. And I was going to mention this in another question, but it's funny, like I'll go to Korea and I'll be looked at like a foreigner.
Yeah.
Even though, I'm same race.
Because you're kind of Americanized.
Yeah, there's so many American Koreans or Korean Americans in Korea, but they're more used to seeing someone like me, so it's not too bad, but nonetheless, I'm different, even to their view.
What do you miss most about your home country?
This question I thought was really weird. It's just a weird way to put it, but I mean, if I were, what do I miss? I mean, I came from a biggest metro to a small town. There's so many things I miss. Not because they're Korean and not here anymore, but because it's from a big city. So I live in LA now, and I think a lot of things I would miss in Korea are there anyways.
So do you feel more like at home now then?
No, I think I feel more home here. That's the weird part. You know, I know people. You know, like this question I thought it was weird. Homeland or hometown. This is hometown to me now. So, I mean, you know, I think Korea is one of those countries where it's so internationalized and so open to foreigners and westernized. You walk down the street in Korea, every sign is in English, right? So I mean, it's not really too much that I really miss, except you know, maybe certain people, but nothing really particular about the country necessarily.
Did you know English before you came over to America?
Funny thing, I was actually like the best in my English class. I was awarded for like having the best grade in English.
Did you have, were you guys taught English in
Oh yeah,
Korea?
in school, and I had a tutor for it. So I was extensively taught, but when I came here, it was useless. Like I didn't understand the word people said, and it was funny. Like I would go to Carl's Jr. and I could not order. Like they would ask you here to go, I would not know what to say. So it's funny.
So you had to learn.
Yeah,
Still.
I had to relearn. Like I mean, I think even until like I was in college, I would ask my friends, "Hey, what does that mean? What you just said?" Like, pardon my topic here, like playing beer pong. And I made the last shot, and someone said, "Oh, you're a clutch." I was like, "What does that mean?" Like, I know now.
Just
So like those
certain
things, right?
terms.
There's certain things that you don't read in a book or learn in school that you gotta learn, even when you're fluent in English.
One of the people on our panel, on our Asian panel, they were talking about how it was difficult to have phone conversations with
Really?
people. Do you have that
Oh.
trouble of people not understanding what you're saying or hanging up on you, or
Not me, but I think there are times I don't understand them because their voice is over the phone. You
or they're
don't really-
talking too fast, maybe?
Me, I never had that problem, but I can see how people think that because when you're like talking to someone, you can see their body language, you can maybe read their lips, or you know, there's some other cues that you can pick up. But when you're on the phone, you know, your voice is changed. So I can see what they mean.
Let's see. What support services did maybe you or your family use, or you in school, to help you transition into the culture?
To answer first, none. The only organization, so to speak, that I was part of was ESL, which is English for Second Language. And I must say it was the most ineffective and useless program I've been to. It was a waste of time. You know, I had that in Reno, and I learned Spanish more than English because everybody in there was speaking Spanish anyways. So I actually opted. That's how I met you guys. Is I was at Dover for ESL, and the ESL class, all they would do is they don't talk. They just read a book. Like everybody's just reading their own book. You know, like level, like fifth grade level.
So the teachers weren't
So they don't do anything.
educated.
Like, yeah, like she's there to answer questions if I need help, but she's a Spanish speaker, so all the Mexican kids get extra help, and I'm kind of stuck with my own
They
language.
didn't know.
So I told my mom it was useless, so I went to Mendive, and that's when I met everything.
Lucky. What are some things that you like most about living here in the United States?
This derives not just from my perspective, from other people too. I think we have a higher ceiling on everything. Like if you really want to do something and you have the means to do it, you can. I have a funny example of what people can do here. Like someone from Korea visits U.S. and they go to Home Depot. They're culturally shocked, like, because they sell everything you can to build a house. Like anybody can literally, like, if they're motivated enough, they can go buy the stuff and build a house from scratch. And also, like people have garages here. Like we have a lot of freedom to do a lot of things. Like you know, I don't know. And even in our social life, like as far as career goes and professional life, there's a racial barrier and gender barrier. But you know, we can do a lot of things here.
Are there any special culture or traditions or holidays or things that you celebrate in Korea that you don't celebrate here?
Everything.
Really?
Like our Thanksgiving for Korea was in September, but I mean I obviously don't celebrate that.
Is it called Thanksgiving?
No, but it's the exact same concept. It's like a harvest season, and you know, kind of being thankful. There's also the New Year's. People call it Chinese New Year's, but the misleading thing is that it's not Chinese. It's lunar calendar. So what it is, we count days by the sun. Every time the sun is at the highest point, that's one day. But like the sun obviously goes down to Earth like 365 times, and the moon doesn't. So that's why it's a different time every year. So that would be the biggest holiday as well. But we don't do that here. Maybe that's just our family, but we just don't really celebrate.
You've kind of assimilated.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have family living here, how are they adjusting differently than how you adjusted? So like your mom or your grandma?
Mm-hmm. I think I adjusted the best because of my age and also because so our family that came here is my mom, me, and my younger sister. But my younger sister is born with 47 chromosomes, so her learning abilities are obviously slower. But she is bilingual though. That's the cool thing. She's still bilingual. But like for my mom, she's married to an American guy, so she obviously adjusted, and she went to school here, every year. She went to UNR as well. So they've done well, that they can function in this country without a problem, but it took them longer time than it took me probably, especially for my mom because she was in her mid-30s when she came here. So,
how long did it take your mom to get through college?
She took a long time because she had to work and watch us at the same time. I'm sure you know all about that.
If you have family living abroad, so your dad, how do you communicate with him? Often?
Nowadays it's so easy, right? And I can talk to my dad as fast as I can talk to anybody else in the country. So there's literally no issues as far as communications go, other than just messing through time zone, obviously.
Do you talk to him often?
Not as often as he'd like me to, I'm sure, but anytime I want to.
You can.
In a better way, yeah.
How can people prepare for life here before traveling to the United States? So before you came over when you were 12, did you prepare yourself? A lot of people say that they watch like mass media and get an idea of America through.
Well, I have a better thing. Just to acknowledge you, I studied sociology and criminal justice, right? So I saw and observe a lot of phenomenon, and it's funny, you see, like, even in our high school, you see Asian kids only hanging out with Asians, black kids only hanging out with black kids. That is the worst thing in the world. Like, why are you even in this country if you're going to stick with a certain ethnicity? Like, people complain about racism, but then they're sticking with their own race, so they're kind of perpetuating to themselves. So be diverse, like, have friends who aren't like you, You can't, like, the people who, like, Koreans who move here and only hang out with Koreans, they're not bilingual. Like, they have strong accent. They don't get the culture because they don't have to abandon theirs. Or, I mean, they never had to really adapt. So my advice would be, be open, don't be stubborn, and trying to stick with your own people. Like, Koreans move to U.S., and what's the number one city they want to go to? L.A., because it's the biggest Korean population. So, I mean, I think it's really important to, make sure you don't close the door on yourself.
One last question. Do you have any ideas of a program or something that maybe isn't even available to help people that want to come over to the United States come over easier? Or to help their transition?
At first, I think for us it would have been better if there were bilingual services for Koreans like there is for Spanish.
Maybe like Korea written.
Yeah, something like, because think about it, like people from a Spanish-speaking country come here and they don't even have to learn English, and we complain, why are they, not learning English? Because they don't have to. We set up a system where they don't have to. Every dang phone call I make, number 2 for Spanish, right? So that would help people who are starting off, but for a long term, I don't know if there's a certain organization that we can construct that will help them.
Do you plan on, after you graduate, continuing to live in the United States? Or?
Oh yeah, I'm a citizen. I'm naturalized. I actually wanted to work for the government here, but it would be cool to be deployed to Korea as an American because I got the culture and language. That way, I can, also, connect to my roots at the same time. Work for the country I do live for. So.
Now I might be wrong about this, but if you are a Korean citizen, do you have an obligation to become part of the military?
Oh, absolutely. Especially for men only, right? That's actually something that a lot of men